Hi everyone, I'm Andrey Sokurec, and today I have a true pleasure to introduce Mr. Jason Cramer. Jason is VP of Operation and a partner. Jason, welcome.
Thanks, Andrey. Great to be here.
Yeah, all right. We're going to have a coffee.
All
today.
right, nice. Here we go.
Yeah.
Cheers.
And it's been how long? 3 months?
About 2.5 months.
2.5 months since we did the merger, and we just want to give you an update what's going on. First, let's start off with your background. Maybe you can share your background, your experience, how long you've been in real estate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my background is real estate. I had a franchise with a national franchise company for about 17 years. And about 8 years ago, ended up leaving them and starting my own business up, also in the same field. So about 23 years of flipping houses. I came into that business through finance, through the mortgage department, and started buying foreclosures. So I started trying to find ways to refinance people's mortgages, and then ended up transitioning into being an investor. Found an attorney.
Wasn't it a good time?
Perfect timing. Yeah. Found an attorney that trained me in how to buy foreclosures and ended up flipping houses that way. Saw a billboard for a national real estate flipping company and bought a franchise and started doing that. So.
Okay. And I've known you for, almost for more than 20 years.
It's over 20 years.
Yeah. So we just did the merger. So you as operator, how many, you were doing about 35 to 40 deals consistently.
Right.
Okay. And what kind of, give me 3 pain points that you had as a small operator?
So when you're small, you don't really have the capacity to do everything yourself. You don't have the financing. My main 3 things were, because I didn't have a huge employee workforce and stuff like that, I had to find people that could do a lot of different things well. In other words, I had to find people that were able to buy houses, manage the construction process, and sell them. So finding good people was probably the number one thing. And then what would happen is, after you train them in and they learn the business and they see how much money you can make flipping, they invariably want to go out on their own and start doing it themselves. So then you have to go back to the drawing board, find another unicorn, so to speak, and then retrain them in the business, only to have them jump ship. So I'd say that was the first one. I did primarily wholesaling, but we did a fair amount of rehabbing as well. Very capital intensive business. So the other pain point would be not having sufficient capital. The third pain point, of course, is if I'm the operator, all the responsibility falls on me. And so there's a lot of stress if there's a problem with the project, or if one of your tech stack thing breaks down or something, or whatever the case may be, a house, starts on fire or whatever the case may be, all that responsibility falls on me. So those were the 3 things that were, kind of motivating me to try to scale. With those pain points, it's very, very difficult to scale a business when you're kind of going back to the drawing board, finding new people, and you don't have sufficient capital and stuff like that. Very capital intense business, as you know, between advertising and financing and stuff like that.
Okay, so 3 points: finding good people, capital intensive, and stress. And you were the guy who had to wear all those hats. If your house on fire, or if you need to change cartridges or do payroll, that's a lot of hats to wear. I do remember the Death Valleys when we tried to scale. Alex and I were doing 50 deals, and then we had to hire someone, hire, and then 100 deals in our Death Valley, then 200, 300, 400, 500, and probably especially different markets broke our systems. Wherever we build, we had to rebuild, and it just takes time. So it took us about 20 years to build the system, but we, from the start, we wanted to build a platform that will consolidate and operate in multiple markets. Just different objective.
All right.
If you want to be a small lifestyle business operator, you don't need to probably to bother to do that. Okay, well, and so what kind of inspired you, because we had this conversation for a long time,
right?
But what inspired you to pull the trigger and do the merger?
So I had looked at an exit in the business, even when I was with the franchise company. And you build a business up. This type of business is very transaction oriented. In other words, you're only making as much money as your last deal, right? There's no residual income, like maybe a rental business. Or
not a sticky revenue. That's what the investment banker told me.
Not sticky revenue. So we had to keep flipping. So at some point you go, well, where's the light at the end of the tunnel? What's my exit strategy? So I even started looking at that even back in the franchise days, and I had actually went to the business broker and looked at listing it. They comped out the business and gave me an idea of what they thought they could sell it for.
How did they comp it out?
It's a multiple of ODE, like owner's discretionary earnings, a multiple of that, and I think that's pretty typical. Even
is it like 2-3 times?
It's like three times, yeah. Three
but
times.
that's what they gave you, the price. It's like realtor, how much your house worth.
Yeah.
This is the price.
That doesn't mean we're cashing our chips yet.
Okay.
And so I went back to legal department at the franchise and said no. Mm-hmm. At that point, you could buy a franchise for $50,000. Why would somebody buy your business for $1 million if they can go to the franchisee and get it for $50,000? So at that point, I was a little bit disheartened about that whole process. And then over the next, I would say 2 to 3 years, ended up coming to the conclusion that if I wanted an exit strategy, I would have to build the business from scratch myself. And so that's what I ended up doing. And got it to the point where we started talking. But I had also went and previously listed the business again with a business broker. And they went through the whole process again of finding potential buyers. This time it was with my business that I owned. They had a lot of interest, 30, 40, 50 different prospects within the first 30 to 60 days, only to find out that no one could figure out the business model. No one understood how we made money or why somebody would ever sell their house for 75 to 80 cents on the dollar. So at the end of the day, I ended up canceling the listing.
Okay, so we need to take this as in our short. So you listed the business, you got 30 prospects looking at your business and 0 offers.
Zero offers. I didn't even get to the point where I had an LOI.
No LOI.
They tried to get an LOI. I signed a couple different times, but they never even got to the LOI stage.
And probably there are reasons why it's hard to sell. Business is very capital intensive, number one. There's no sticky revenue. And it's also risky because you have to have a lot of capital involved into this business. Pretty
subjective and complicated as well. It's not like making widgets. Every house is a little bit different. Where are you buying? The learning curve is very, very.
All right. So Jason, you got 30 prospects, 0 offers, 0 LOI, and you also, how much time did you put into selling your business? Because it takes time to prepare the business, to have those meetings, respond to this 30 requests.
Right. Yeah. So they keep you pretty busy for 30 to 60 days.
Okay.
A lot of energy, a lot of positivity, very confident. Business brokers are very confident on the front end.
Yeah, that was supposed to be like
this is going to happen. It's just a matter of time. It's going to be between here and here. Like here's the worst case scenario, common scenario, best case scenario. But it was never even a possibility that it wouldn't sell. That wasn't really even brought up. So, and then they kind of hook you in. Well, we got another guy. Well, we got another guy. Well, we got another guy, another guy, another guy, another guy. So after, the 20th or 30th guy, you're like, at some point, are we going to get an LOI, a letter of interest, to move forward on this thing? Mm-hmm. Well, we've got a guy that's pretty close.
Yeah.
And it never got beyond we got a guy that's pretty close. So after the 30th time in 90 days or whatever, we signed a mutual agreement to cancel the listing. And of course, then they hook you for anybody that they had previously showed you. That would be, you'd still have to pay a commission up through a certain amount of time and stuff like that, which, didn't really matter because they didn't really have anybody anyway. But that was, an interesting process. I mean, to go through it really solidified, though, that going through that process solidified kind of me, prepping me or preparing me for our negotiations and put me in a frame of mind where I felt like that there were only a small pool of people that would understand my business well enough to be in a position to invest in it. And of course, that's where...
Here's, because I also had a hard time to explain, even though like we have a full-blown 60 pages presentation to explain the business model and the numbers. So it's really hard for a person outside, not strategic buyer, to evaluate your business. But I would probably recommend, if you're watching this, if you have a business, just go through the exercise, put your numbers together, create your plan, create your tech stack, because it takes time. Because if there is a right time, someone makes you an offer, at least you have those documents prepared. Even though you were prepared, but it took us a lot of time to put everything together and understand how everything works.
Right. Part of that would be, what exactly are they buying? What are you bringing to the table? What is your IP, your intellectual property, or what is it that what is it? Why can't somebody just recreate it? That was another question that came up. Why can't I just throw money at it and rebuild your business?
That's a valid concern.
What are you bringing to the table? And that is a valid concern. Mm-hmm. But there weren't too many people rebuilding what I did. I mean, I wasn't in a position that you guys are at your level. There's other operators that are bigger, but there was something there, and I wanted to be able to cash in, and it was almost impossible to do it through a traditional business broker model because they couldn't find somebody that understood the business.
That's a really good point. It's almost impossible. I don't know a single operator who was able to sell a company, period.
Right.
Okay. So, but what were your, let's say, 2 or 3 main objectives in order to do a merger? What motivated you?
Right. So the first would be kind of to take some money off the table, to take some chips off the table, building something up and being able to see some value, to create something other than that transaction, that kind of hamster wheel situation where every day you have to go out and shake the tree to see what falls. There's a new deal, new advertising, and that type of thing. So that was the first thing. The other thing was reduce the risk, to not have all the risk, personally guaranteed credit lines, and every aspect of the business was on my shoulders. So that to offload some of that, and then to try and scale was the objective. But I didn't have all the components to scale.
That's incredibly time consumer. Just takes time to scale.
Right.
So we covered your objectives and our objectives. We had a very simple agenda. We already have infrastructure, but we wanted to add additional stream of revenue or lead generation sources, because you had a proven model how you generated leads. You did a phenomenal job market to consumers. So now it takes time. So that's number one, to have a predictable additional lead source at a predictable price, number one. And number two, I also wanted to bring a talent to help us to grow and to scale this business. And it's incredibly hard to find someone with the level of your expertise. That's what we had 2 objectives. Right. And also to bring your network of contractors. Your wife Chantal is working here now. If you have any subcontractors who are doing rehab, that's a real resource that we can utilize.
Yeah, synergy.
Okay. So we had, the message is that we try to massage, and now we that's a real message, is together we're better.
Right.
But let's talk about concerns. Like from you as operator, you share your concerns and I'll share my concerns.
Right.
What are the top 3 concerns that you had?
So coming into a situation, I was in control, right? So that's a double-edged sword. I wanted to kind of give up the control. I didn't want the responsibility. But then again, when you're merging with somebody else, you're giving that control over. And so that is kind of scary. Predictability. I was running, I knew what the leads generated. I had everything, all the systems were dialed in for my level, so a level of comfort. I could predict the income fairly well. But what's going to happen after the merger? That's the big question, right? And so the way that the deal was structured, a part of the price, and this is very, very typical, was based on the performance of the assets that were acquired, which to me, I kind of felt like after I sold it, I would kind of, be not in control. It's like kind of a weird feeling for a control freak operator. I've been self-employed, for over 30 years.
You said unemployed?
Yeah, I've been unemployed. I have not had a job since 1994, right? So I've been unemployed since 94, but I'm in control of my destiny. And so now I've got to, give up control. It's unpredictable. Are these guys going to mess my business up? Are you guys I'm going to sell this to you. I'm going to get a portion, but then it's just going to fall apart. And so I was, it took me a while to be able to come to grips with that. And I think that's probably typical of most owner operators. They like, to a certain extent, like that responsibility. Maybe it is risky, but people get used to that risk. I haven't had a W-2 job for 30 years. I've always made my mortgage payment, right? So, so that was a difficult step.
Yeah, that's especially it's emotional for a lot of people. You took so much time to build your business, and now you're not.
Yeah, it's my baby.
It's your baby, right? Okay. Well, for us, what the biggest concern was, how the trust level.
Yeah.
And I've known you for a long time, so like the trust level there. Number 2, cultural fit.
Right.
And number 3 is unexpected, because all we really buying is lead generation. But what if Google shut down your account?
Right. Yep. A little risky for you guys too.
Yeah. So, but I think it worked out, and we've been 2.5 months in the days, and I'm super excited to see the results so far, but maybe you can share what the results we see so far.
Well, so my business, pretty predictable going into this, was about 35 to 40 deals a year, just like clockwork every year. The same ad spend, click, 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 and about mid 20-ish gross profit per deal.
So 40 deals, it brings about $1 million in gross profit before any expenses, before marketing, just gross profit.
Yeah. And so that's what I've been used to over the last 7-8 years or so. Coming on board, and granted, it's there's some seasonality here, which is actually probably works in our favor, because this is November, December, and half of January, not the best 2.5 months. In this Minnesota, as far as this business goes, we're at 11 deals. And I believe, and I don't have the exact numbers yet, but our gross profit is about double. So we're, on track to basically double unit volume and double gross profit per deal. So in other words, about quadruple gross profit on the same ad spend with the exact same, lead generation systems. The only thing that's changed is taking that and plugging it into a system.
Yeah, I think we are at 11 deals as of today and $545,000 in gross profit. That's the gross profit before marketing expense. However, if Jason, year over year for last 7 years, generated $1 million in gross profit, and we did it within 2.5 months. That's a really good result.
Yeah, very impressive.
What kind of surprised you, or working in a being a part of a bigger and more structured organization?
Well, other than that, which I guess you don't know what you don't know. So you think you're going through this whole process of running your business, and you think you're being super efficient, and you think nothing is slipping through the cracks, and then only to find out after 2.5 months that maybe there was some slippage there. How do you justify that? Basically, even if everything was wholesale and we just had double, how was I losing 50% of the deals? That's eye-opening. And then so that leads into just how important it is to have systems in place and have people that can handle the various aspects. Rather than having one person wearing 10 hats, you've got everybody is in their department, and as a team, it becomes more efficient to process these leads and generate, you squeeze the juice out of the leads, which they're the same leads. I'm convinced. I mean, they're the same leads from the same website with the same, everything's the same. The only variable is how those leads are handled. And that's creating this humongous increase.
Yeah, that was the most, I would say, humbling experience for me when I went to Harvard Business School, and we had a PE class, private equity playbook. They showed the first picture how private equity makes money, efficiency of running the business. And it ranked from being self-employed to a company that is led by either founder, owner, family office, government, and obviously a public company. So founder-owned business is the least effective business. And I could not believe it. But that's what they said. If you buy a company or business that is led by founder, right, there is no processes, systems, right accountability, compensation plans, and you come and there is a playbook and you fix checklist. Yeah. You fix this, that, and that. So amazing. That was a big humbling experience, I would say, because I'm so efficient. I'm doing this. I'm changing cartridges right. in the printer. Yeah. But in reality, you shouldn't do that. Right. You should only focus as a executive or CEO of the company of high producing ROI activity, which is building relationship, finding capital, right.
Strategy,
and you have to have someone else fixing printers.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, but right. Well, that's very exciting. And what would you say? What would you recommend? So now your role is VP of Business Development. So which means is right now we want to roll up 1 or 2 operators next 12 months.
Right.
We have 5 people so far under NDA, and we're looking for operators primarily in Midwest region, because we really want to focus on Midwest, where the market is very stable, predictable, we understand very well. So you will be doing this integration and pre-integration work. So what kind of advice would you give to the people who considering, maybe not ready to sell right now or roll up, but somewhere 6, 12, maybe 2 years down the road, what they can do to prepare themselves both mentally and operationally?
Yeah, I mean, I would do your homework and see what options are available. Go through the process so you become convinced of what it is that this is involved in the whole sale of your business. I mean, for me, I had to go through that process of finding a business broker and going through that process, just making sure that you're not the exclusivity. They want an exclusive right for a certain period of time. I wouldn't tie that up for more than 60 days. They should know within 60 days if they're going to be able to do this or not. If they can, that would be the first time that either of us have ever heard of it happening, but it's possible. If it's not, then I would start keeping track of your numbers and your data, because that's how these decisions are made, is is the data information, like how much are you paying for leads, where the leads coming from, and start documenting as much. For me, I had some processes, they weren't super detailed, but get your data together, figure out what your processes are, your tech stack, and then that would make it easier once, if you do decide for the integration, because that is the other thing that comes after the transaction, is the integration of the leads in the business that's being acquired into our business. And that was the part that I was kind of really happy to be on the inside part, because I knew all the tech stack, and I knew where the leads were coming from, and I just wanted to make sure that my baby, stayed alive, and again, I had a financial interest in the outcome of these acquired assets continue to produce revenue, and that's key. But to have all that stuff lined up in advance, we have a spreadsheet with all the different tech stack, everything on it, and get all that lined up, and then do your homework. Envision yourself as taking some chips off the table, and then being able to scale by selling it to a bigger company.
Yeah, you did a really good job by organizing everything right now with the technology and data room. We just use Google Drive and Dropbox and build that template.
Financial statements and reports and all that kind of stuff.
So maybe let's go through the documents and preparation. What people need to do right now in advance, maybe give them like 5-step processes so they can increase sellability of the business.
Right.
Because some of the businesses, I have stories like people bring checks and say, hey, like, look, this is my accounts in a box of receipts and hot settlement statements. So to prepare the process, how would you start, and what would be the first step?
Well, when I started the business, my CRM was a notebook. Okay, so I would wander around.
Notebook like this?
I had
this
actually a journal. Yeah, this was my CRM.
Okay, well, I didn't see that was a part of the deliverable assets. Where's that?
Yeah, so this is what I'm selling you.
Okay.
It's $1 million.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then, there you go. At some point, that is not sufficient. So we had a CRM for leads.
CRM for leads.
We had another CRM for our project management, including transaction coordination and project management. We also, our tech stack included websites, automations through Zapier, call tracking through CallRail, all that stuff wrapped up into a package that I could actually say, here it is. And I had something to deliver. So that was the what. The valuation is based on income, so my books have to be accurate. So I would highly recommend, in addition to documenting what your processes are for generating leads and how you turn that into money, is on the financial aspects of it, making sure all of your books are in alignment. I've had a CPA for the last 24 years, so all of my tax returns are signed off by a CPA. So when you ask what's going on in the business, I don't have gobbledygook that I'm handing to you. You can say, here's the sales, here's your cost of goods sold, here's your gross profit, here's your advertising. And that's kind of the first, that's the kind of the upper level chunk of value that we were kind of looking for. How much is this making? How much money is it making? And you have to have that documentation in order to substantiate it. You can't be running around paying business expenses out of personal accounts or buying stuff for cash or doing deals on the side. Everything needs to be documented. So I would highly recommend starting to document it. If you haven't already and you want to do an exit, I would highly recommend documenting everything.
Yeah, and I like that you had a really well organized financial data. How many leads you received, how many appointments, what was the gross profit per wholesale, gross profit per actual deal.
Right.
Because you need to support the story with numbers.
Yep.
And you did a really good job. So if you, in the process, I think it's for any business owner or CEO, you run the business, you have to have your data and so you can compare, you can present it to someone, and I think it's important to have a business to prepare to make it sellable.
Right.
Because if you don't have those tax records or financial records, you're not organized, you don't have proper CRM, there's nothing to sell.
Right. And even if there were, you wouldn't know it because you wouldn't be able to track any of it. So.
Yeah. So I believe there is a lot of value in our businesses, like companies who buy houses, fix them, and sell. And what we want to do is we want to help people to unlock that value, take a little bit chips off the table, to have that financial security for themselves, for their family, maybe establish college funds for their kids, and also be part of the bigger picture, because we have a couple options. Option one can be if you want to completely step away, that's one option. But if you want to take a role as a executive in the business, that's also an option, and maybe new opportunity for a lot of people who want to, or maybe you just want to be acquisition manager. If I like to talk to people,
right.
Maybe I don't like to run the business.
Right.
I like to be a disposition on construction, manage construction. So there is also
something for everybody.
Yeah. So Jason, what's for you next 2 to 3 years? So how do you see yourself?
Well, I mean, for this phase, definitely helping grow the business through replicating the process that I went through to get here in the first place. So basically just kind of rinsing and repeating. I'm more of a marketing and sales guy than an operations guy. So I am, the acquisition manager type personality. This would be basically just switching from acquisition manager for houses to acquisition manager for businesses. So
okay, so now we're switching Jason from buying houses to buying a company. So if you have a house to sell or business to sell,
right.
This is the guy.
Right, there you go.
Okay.
Look me up, Google it, call me.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. We'll give you updates. We've only been 2.5 months so far in this project, but so far the results are very encouraging and backed by the real numbers. And if you're thinking, or if you're considering, or if you have any questions about our roll-up program, I think the earlier in the process you're going to join us, the more value you can get. So it's not probably time to sell yet, but however, if you have questions or if you're just considering open for a conversation, reach us out, and we would be glad to connect you with Jason. Jason is our VP of Biz Dev, and he will share the experience and help you to prepare the business for transition. Okay, Jason,
Perfect.
Anything else you'd like to add for people who may be thinking, not ready to sell yet, but just wondering or collecting information? What kind of advice?
I would, ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. I tell my kids all the time, if something in what we've talked about doesn't fully make sense, you can always just ask, reach out, ask questions, be happy to answer any questions. And it's a process, one step at a time.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And Jason, thank you. We're glad to have you on the team. And we're excited to share with you maybe next 2.5 months, like the final numbers for it will be 3.5 months, right. 6 months milestone. Okay.
That's great.
Thanks.
Looking forward to it.